I'll do my best George impression. Welcome to the Sunday edition, the Week 5 Guess the Lines edition of the PFF Forecast. Our pal George is currently at MetLife, walking out of the stadium with Taylor Swift, with Ryan Reynolds. It's a celeb showdown with George Chahuri, so that's where he's at. Arjun and I coming to you live. I might just leave this Falcons Ritter fade comment on the show the entire hour and a half we're on here. Yeah, just free money for the last 2 weeks. So yeah, welcome in everybody. Arjun and I are going to do the usual couple reactions to week 4. His Jets almost pull out a nail biter. Zach Wilson did look very good this entire game, or most of this game, which is pretty fascinating because Mahomes did not look good at all. And we'll dive into some week 5 action. Any major takeaways for you this week, Arjun?
Yeah, I mean it was a pretty good week for the pod. I think just in general, all of us did pretty well and guessed the lines. Our locks, article plays did pretty well. Honestly, the biggest takeaway for me is I'm shocked by how bad the Bengals are this year. I was pretty high on them coming into the year. I had them as my second highest rated team. But Burrow just looks like a shell of himself. It's with their receivers, you can always kind of get away with having a low ADOT because Jamar and Higgins were always really good at yak. They could turn a 5-yard pass into a 20-yard pass, which is an explosive play. But it just seems so off this year. There's no, Burrow's not able to use his mobility as much. I think Zach Taylor is trying to run the same offense he's been running with the old Joe Burrow, and you just can't do that. I think it's making life hard on Burrow. And honestly, this Bengals defense, I mean, Lou Anarumo, I was high on him, but I feel like his head coaching stock is plummeting at this point. I mean, giving up 27 points to the Titans without Peter Skoronski and Treylon Burks. You have Derrick Henry doing jump passes at the goal line on you. They rushed for over I think 160 yards. Like, it was just a bad showing all around from a team that's supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. And I think outside of Burrows, pretty healthy all around.
Yeah, defense has bailed him out so many times, and I think really the only game they've played well in is the Rams game. I think they've had 3 bad outings otherwise besides that game. Obviously, Rams get back in the win column with an overtime win. Puka Nacua continues his ridiculous start to his NFL career. My takeaway, though, is I'm actually even more, I guess not more surprised, because I didn't think the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to be Cincinnati Bengals level. But I know you and we disagreed with the GOAT, Judah Fortgang, who I hope people tailed his tail outcome, CJ Stroud / Houston Texans alternate spread SGPs. They all cashed, and I think it was over 20-1 for the Stroud 300 plus passing yards and the Texans minus 5.5. The spread hit by a mile, obviously 30-6. And Stroud, I think, had 306 passing yards, something like that. So just narrowly got over the edge there. But I mean, Pittsburgh's defense against 4 third-string offensive linemen to do nothing. I mean, they had 0 sacks in the game, maybe 1, and really just not generate consistent pressure. PFF Bobby Slowik, the offensive coordinator, we've been joking and saying his name like he might actually be a head coach next year at this rate. If it keeps going the way it's going in Houston, I think you'll get both Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard back next week at tackle. So it's going to get even better. The defense also has a lot of young players. Stingley out right now. It should get even better. But the bigger story for me is Pittsburgh. I mean, this was if this offense can't show signs of life against this Houston Texans defense that is missing a million players, their entire secondary basically out front, outside of Will Anderson, don't have a ton of talent, and they did nothing. I mean, truly nothing. We did give out a Najee Harris rushing yards prop in the Discord that did cash for us. Yeah, because the Texans have a bad run defense, but I'm not even sure. Game script was supposed to be part of that bet, and game script in no way, shape, or form helped us in that regard. But anyway, it's looking like the AFC North is the Baltimore Ravens, and I did not give them the respect they deserve. I can freely admit that, and I think that they could run away with it to a degree. So yeah, anything else for you?
No, I think we kind of covered it, and I think we'll touch on some of the bigger points as we get into these games, which I think there's a lot of interesting ones that I want to talk about.
For sure. All right, I'm pulling up a sheet here. So, like you said, good week for the fellas. I'm 3-1 so far, 3-0 so far. Excuse me, 3-0 on week 4 with our favorite play of the week, or my favorite play of the week, the over 45 tomorrow, which is now 47 or 47 and a half at most books. Um, ready.
You're pulling up the sheet, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, I have the week 5 one all set up. So
beautiful.
I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to do the press like lines, like what the press is set, just because I think that's George mainly has the access to that. So I
Yeah.
think it could be a little bit tricky. Um,
Yep. No, George has all the data there in the file there, so we'll get that in the Discord or something like that in the near future. But all right, I got the sheet here. I also don't know how George shared it. If someone in the comments wants to let me know how to share a screen in the middle of a StreamYard. Alrighty,
Brad, do you not have the present thing at the bottom?
there we go. Sweet. Alrighty. Let's see. Okay. All right, we got it. We're looking at it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
All righty, beautiful. Thank you for updating it for us. All right. All right, bear with us, folks. But yeah, we're back at it. We'll guess the lines action right out of the gate. A beautiful Thursday matchup with your Chicago Bears. Actually, you faded them this week. Hey, you faded them this week, and somehow that was your only loss of the entire week. So the Bears got you there. But yeah, so Chicago, we can dive into that game. A truly preposterous loss, but also I think one of the best tank losses I've seen in a very, very long time. All right, what do you got the commies here on Thursday night?
Yeah, I got commies -6 in this game.
All right, I went -5.5. All righty, pull up.
Yes, I'm seeing 6. Yeah, I'm seeing 6 across the board basically for this game.
Yep, I see the same. All right, you got a play on it?
Um, I don't, but I will say, like, I feel like I have a strong lean to the Commanders just because, like I think Sam Howell is like I think as a passer, you take away the sack avoidance and all that. Strictly as a thrower of the football, Sam Howell is like actually like better than people give him credit for. The Bears, as we know, have zero pass rush. Coming into today, they had 1 sack. I think like did they even have a sack today at all?
Not in my recollection. And Russell Wilson is
Yeah.
also, infamously bad in that regard. But yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, like, this is a Bears team that's not going to be able to get any pressure, even against a bad Commanders offensive line. Sam Howell does a pretty good job of I think, like, spreading the ball around. This is the same Commanders defensive line that kind of put the clamps on Justin Fields last year. I'm expecting a lot of pressure, especially on the interior. I feel like Nate Davis and Lucas Patrick have kind of struggled in that regard. So I have a very strong lean for the Commanders, but I think I'm going to lay off in this one.
Yeah. So Howell did still take 5 sacks today, but obviously, good Bills defensive line that was good against Miami today. It goes up against the Eagles today, but 14 sacks in 2 weeks is going to be a lot on the quarterback, no matter how you slice it. This defense caused a lot of problems for Chicago last year. I do think we probably get Tevin Jenkins off IR, and I would imagine right into the starting lineup for this game, but I'm not saying that changes my opinion at all. I don't have a bet either. I mean, Chicago did show signs of life on offense. Justin Fields had an amazing first half. Of course, then though had an ugly fumble sack and a couple bad throws in the second half. But yeah, I have no play here, but I think Washington would be my lean as well. Alrighty. So this one, next game we got here is Jacksonville, Buffalo. I think a little bit tricky here. I think this might get bet in a funny way by people because they see Jaguars at Bills. This is in London, and the Jaguars are obviously, I would assume, just going to stay in London. So
Yeah.
yes, this is a quote-unquote home game for Buffalo. They're traveling to a different country. Jacksonville is hanging out in the pubs after an easy W over Atlanta. What do you have the spread here?
I have this as Bills -6.
I went Bills -5.5, so I'm with you there. So, real quick on that one, the Jaguars. We talked about a little bit today. I think the Jaguars just did not trust their offensive line. They obviously did well when throwing down the field. Trevor Lawrence was 4 or 5 for I think 80 yards, and the score to Calvin Ridley. But they just abandoned pushing the ball downfield. And as much as we don't necessarily love Press Taylor, I do think to a degree they just don't trust this O line. That said, though, Cam Robinson, the left tackle, flew to London because he is kind of a weird scenario. He is now eligible to return from his suspension. I want to say his was PEDs. So he's back. But the reason why I think it's a massive deal is not only do you get Cam Robinson back at left tackle, and look, he's like an average left tackle. He's not a superstar, but you improve 2 spots because now I think Walker Little or Anton Harrison, whoever, kicks inside to guard. And the left guard spot has been the problem, the biggest problem so far for Jacksonville. So I think it is fairly meaningful. That said, well, first of all, what do you have for the actual spread here?
Yes, I'm seeing 4.5 in most places. FanDuel has it at 5.5. I believe Circa has it at 6.5, which is interesting. But like MGM, DraftKings, Caesars, they all have it at 4.5. So I think we should make this 4.5.
Yeah, I agree. I'm seeing 4.5 at most books. That is interesting on Circa though, for obvious reasons. Okay, you got a bet here?
Yeah, this is an easy Buffalo play for me. I mean this was like just a dominant Buffalo performance, and this was one that I needed to see. Not only offensively, I needed to see Josh Allen kind of turn back the clock and go back to that MVP form, but defensively, I mean they had after the first half, like they put the clamps on Tua very hard. And yeah, I mean this is also me kind of fading my initial preseason narratives about the Jags. Like you talked about, I'm just not impressed with their offense really at all. I don't think you're going to be able to win against the Bills, kind of just going quick game or run on early downs. The one thing that gives me a little bit of a pause, Trey White, torn Achilles, I believe, against Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk, like that might be a little bit worrisome. But I mean, the Bills have drafted cornerbacks. They have Kyer Elam, who doesn't even really play. He's definitely a downgrade from Trey White, but this is a very deep secondary, and they did all of that to Tua today without Jordan Poyer, who is one of their leaders of that defense. So I really like the Bills in this spot. I don't really see how the Jags defense is going to slow down the Bills offense either. And yeah, this is probably going to be one of my biggest bets of the whole week 5, I think.
Yeah. The side of the ball you just mentioned at the end there, I think, is even more kind of why I'm with you. I'm riding the Bills with you on this one. I mean, they obviously held the Falcons to 6 points today, but that doesn't really mean much of anything to me. I struggle to see how this Jaguars defense is going to stop the Buffalo Bills offense much at all. Josh Allen did have a couple sacks today. That being Jaguars Josh Allen. We do get a matchup of Josh Allen's in this one, so that'll be fun. But yeah, coming into this game, Jacksonville was 30th, I want to say, in pressure rate. I think 30th also in pass rush win rate. It was like them, Denver, and Chicago were really doing nothing. And so yeah, like him and Trayvon Walker both had a couple sacks, pressures today, whatever. But I don't think you're going to see the same thing against Josh Allen. I think they're going to score a bunch, and I still have question marks about this Jags offensive line. So yeah, I am riding with you on that one. All right, we're on the board. I do have one bet, by the way. George has one particular bet. You probably could guess what it is before you even get to it. But that'll be his contribution to guess the lines, is just hammering one spread that he loves. All right, next we're on to Houston, our Houston Texans at not our Atlanta Falcons. What do you got this one at?
Yeah, so this one I went Texans +3.
I went 2.5. So Atlanta -2.5. And I think
I'm seeing 2.5 everywhere.
that's what I'm seeing as well. And I know I'm not trying to overreact here, but like I talked top of the show, I think it's not just betting on a Houston good performance or a good couple performances. I think we're getting both starting tackles back for this game. And I mean, the interior is the bigger issue. And Atlanta's defense, I've already said it before in the show. I think Atlanta's defense actually is a pretty good unit. I kind of, trashed their growth and additions from this offseason making that big of a difference. I think they are a pretty solid unit, but they just cannot score. And they're not better than the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which Houston just carved up. So this is a no-brainer teaser leg to get the Texans out to 8.5 here for me.
Okay, I want to pitch over 41.5 to you.
Ooh, okay. Talk to me.
I think the Steelers defense is better than the Falcons defense. Or Yeah, better than the Falcons defense. Their pass rush is definitely better, the Steelers, and CJ Stroud completely carved them up today. I also, I think CJ Stroud's looked pretty comfortable. Atlanta might get a pass rush, but like you said, Houston could be getting both tackles back for this game. Also, I mean, the Texans right now are near the bottom of the league in terms of defending the run. And we know all Arthur Smith wants to do on early downs is run the ball. I think this could be a big Bijan game. It's all big Bijan games, but this could be a game I think we really see him like thrive on early downs. I think we could get a lot of points here just because Houston can't stop the run really, and then I think Houston's offense has looked really good to the point where I don't think the Falcons defense will give them much of a struggle. So I kind of like 41 over 41 and a half, and uh, taking an over with Desmond Mitter, which that's an understatement. That it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, but I think it should go over.
Here's where I'm at. So first of all, I'm adding this comment. I love this comment because I do. This is my main concern, even though I still do like it with you. I've mentioned before, Atlanta near the bottom of the NFL, the Shanahan tree near the bottom of the NFL. Houston has actually been fairly decent, but I think when you adjust for game script, I think they actually are relatively slow. They've just been better at pace of play from a neutral standpoint because there's a lot of garbage time in their first couple of weeks of gameplay. So that doesn't concern me. But from a matchup standpoint, yeah, I mean, look, if Najee Harris is averaging over 5 yards a carry, then Bijan Robinson might average 20 yards a carry, by the transitive property in this matchup. So, yeah, I wrote it up in the article. They were dead last in EPA per rush allowed, and I think 29th or 30th in success rate against the run. So I'm going to join it with you. I do think pace of play is the one thing here. It's a little bit scary. But I think this number is low enough that we can overcome it. So let's do it. Let's ride it. The totals have treated us well too. I think
Yeah.
that's been good to us. All righty. All right. Next up, interesting one. Another rookie quarterback who continues to struggle a bit. Maybe not his fault as much today. I know he had a privileged player too at some point. The fumble was obviously tough. Whenever DJ Wanham's housing it, you know you're doing something wrong. What do you have? Carolina at Detroit.
Yeah, I went Panthers +9 in this one.
Yeah, I went 8.5. Detroit laying 8.5. So obviously we get Detroit off a Thursday game. I mean, a Thursday blowout. Brian Branch, I think, should be fine. I know he got dinged up in that game, but I think he's playing. From Carolina's standpoint, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't recall any notable injuries that happened in that game. I think we're just getting. I mean, look, Detroit is becoming a very good football team in all facets of play. I think they're right now the number one team in success rate against the run, which is insane because their run defense last year through the first month of the season was historically bad, like one of the worst we've ever seen. And now they're top 10 in EPA per rush allowed and first in success rate. And they've played some teams that can run the football in the last 2 weeks in Atlanta and Green Bay and totally shut them down. So I think there's no help in that regard for Bryce Young. And I think that Detroit is going to be able to pick on this Carolina defense that is solid. Made some plays today. I mean, Kirk, the ball to Sam Franklin was just gift wrapped. And then credit to him for running 90 yards and trying to make a tackle, but then got sent to Jupiter on a block by whoever that was. So anyway, is this a play for you, a teaser leg? Well, first of all, what do you have it at? And then what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I have it at -9, or yeah, lines -9. I mean, if it gets below 9 where it is teasable, I'm definitely taking it. I'm seeing 8.5 everywhere. So this is okay, easy teaser leg for me. I might just tease it with Houston, but I'm not gonna. We could find another teaser leg elsewhere, but the easy teaser leg for me. Right now, I mean, you talked about the Lions' run defense being near, tied with the Browns in perimeter success rate. The Panthers have the lowest rush EPA and allowed, and the second lowest, or this they've allowed they've allowed the worst rush EPA, and they have the second worst rushing success rate allowed. My biggest qualm, I don't know if I said that correctly, with Ben Johnson is I thought he ran the ball too much with David Montgomery on early downs. I mean, Montgomery had like 30 carries. I thought they should have mixed in some more play action. I think they were playing with the lead, so he got kind of conservative. But he wants to run the ball in early downs. The Panthers are going to let him. Remember, Evero coming from that Fangio, Staley, light boxes on early downs, too high scheme. The Lions are going to be able to impose their will. They have 10 days to get healthy. I mean, that offensive line went into that Packers game kind of banged up, and again, 10 days to rest, going to be at home. Easy teaser like for me. I don't really see the Lions losing this. Bryce Young is again. I think Bryce Young and Desmond Ritter might be the two worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now, and I don't think that's an understatement. So yeah, this is an easy teaser like for me.
Yeah, after Zach Wilson's performance tonight, I think he just
Oh
pulled
yeah.
himself out of that class, out of that
Oh yeah.
tier. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I'm with you 110%. The Avero thing's a good point. I mean, he has been phenomenal. Denver's defense is just it's remarkable how they've gone from last year to this year. Yeah, Monty obviously was at 32 carries. I think it was 3.8 yards per clip on 32 carries. I think it was game script related. I mean, it was 24-3, like in the first quarter. So I think they were just bleeding clock and not even really trying to be too creative. We also get, I just remember this, we get a little JMO Williams. Hashtag free JMO is upon us. So you stretch the field a little bit. Maybe that helps out. I think in attacking, over the middle, underneath, Jared Goff's been phenomenal throwing between the numbers this year. Been phenomenal on play action. All those things you just mentioned. If you do need to see more of it, which I think you will, it's a step up in class against in defense. Joe Barry and Ajiro Avero is pretty far on the end of the spectrum in terms of defensive play callers in the NFL right now as well. So, yep, I'm with you on that one. All right. We got the Titans at the Indianapolis Colts, big AFC South matchup. What do you got?
I went with a pick'em for this game.
I was right in that area, and I think I have 3 other pick'ems. There's a lot of close spreads this week, but I went the Colts plus 1.5. Assumption here being Anthony Richardson. I don't see why he wouldn't play in this game again. Obviously, had some good moments today. Had an absurd throw where he was getting hit and still
Oh yeah,
delivered like a
that was
30-yard strike to Alec Pierce.
gorgeous.
Yeah, you saw that throw? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was preposterous. It was like 11 for 25, but still averaged 8 yards per attempt, which is hilarious considering the completion percentage. So a lot of good, a little bit of bad. I love the defensive line matchup for the Colts. We've been talking about it a bunch. Obviously, couldn't deliver for them today, but Tennessee's offensive line, has been a privilege. They get Nicholas Pettit-Frere back, who I think will be their starting right tackle. Not sure how meaningful that is, but it is a fact of the matter regardless. I'm seeing Colts plus +1 at DraftKings. What are you saying?
I'm seeing -1 in most places for the Colts.
Okay.
Caesars, MGM. FanDuel has it Colts -1.5, but it's trending 1.
Want to split the difference and just do a pick 'em, or what do you think?
I'm seeing more Colts
-1.
Yeah,
right,
so I would
do it.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Neither one teasable, so can't really take advantage. But okay. You got to play here?
I don't. This is a really interesting game. I mean, the Titans have owned the Colts under the Vrabel, the Vrabel regime, so to say. And like this gives me a lot of interesting dynamics because the Titans are so good at stopping the run. So I don't really think Anthony Richardson's legs are going to be as effective in this game. And he's going to have to win with his arm. And, I've been kind of fading that narrative that he can, the Colts can win with him having a heavy passing volume. But like, he's not like bad. Like he's actually like kind of impressing me sometimes. Like that, like you said, that throw was really good. Didn't put the ball in harm's way. 0 turnover worthy plays for Richardson today. He's not going to end up that well grading. I mean, he also had like a 44% completion percentage, which I know that isn't the best stat to kind of look at for quarterbacks. But I just think he's capable of kind of leading an offense. And we talk about the Titans corners, right? Like McCreary's 5'11". I'm not sure if Fulton is healthy. But you look at like who backs him up, and then you have like Elijah Molden and then Sean Murphy Bunting. They're all under 6 foot. You have 6'3" Alec Pierce. You have like 6'4" Michael Pittman. Then you have the burner and Josh Downs. I think if the Colts are going to win this game, it's going to be through Richardson's arm. And I don't know if I fully trusted yet to back the Colts, who have kind of impressed me in this like 3-game stretch. But I just think this is a very interesting game just because of the divisional dynamics and also how the Colts, I think, have to win this game if they do pull it off.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think also I want to see more with Ryan Kelly, Braden Smith, some of the injuries. Jeffrey Simmons, if he's going up against a backup center with Anthony Richardson, who was very good in college at pressure to sack rate. I think he has been a little bit at the NFL level, holding onto the ball a bit too long. But I'm with you. I would love to bet him, but I don't have the confidence there yet. I think this one could be very ugly too. The 42 number. We've been hammering divisional unders in the low 40s, but I'm not sure I like it, but it is intriguing. All right, let's move right along here. All right, Miami came back down to earth. No longer a juggernaut, or maybe they still are, but not to the same degree. Taking on the New York Football Giants. What do you got here?
I went I went Dolphins minus 9.5.
Okay, I went 8.5. Obviously, we have the Giants playing tomorrow night against our Seattle Seahawks. All righty. What are you seeing here?
I'm seeing 9.5 across the board.
Yeah, me too. All right. You got to play on it?
I I would love to bet the Dolphins here, but their defense has been so bad that I feel like the Giants could, backdoor put up points. But look, this is like just an awful matchup for the Giants. Like we referencing our friend Judah, like this is a matchup the Dolphins are just designed to be. You're not like if Wink Martindale blitzes on over 50%, it's over. Tyreek and Waddle, there's no one on the Giants defense that can keep up with them. Tua is getting the ball out in under 2.5 seconds on almost every play. Um, it's just I don't see how the Giants stop them. But also the Dolphins defense just been pretty bad recently. So again, I think 9.5 is a lot of points. The Dolphins offense I'm not too concerned about. I think the Bills defense is just a bad matchup. But if this does get bet down to 8.5, it's an easy teaser like for me, just like the Lions.
Yeah, so my only thought here, everything I agree with, obviously, from a coverage standpoint, the Giants' corners are not very talented and banged up or have been. They have obviously had a lot of time to rest from that Thursday game against San Fran. But I think running off tackle, I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau has been terrible. Aziz Ojolari has been banged up. They trade for Boogie Basham from the Bills, who obviously the connection to Joe Shane. But I've tweeted this too many times. It's probably annoying to hear me say it again, but they just ignored the edge position for a D coordinator that blitzes more than anyone. It made no sense to me. And then Bobby Okereke is a good player, but is exposable as a coverage linebacker, I think, at times, as is the rest of the unit. This is probably too late, but I think maybe there is value one more week in props on our guy, Devon Achan, who now is the leading rusher in the AFC, by the way, with like 2 games played and like 18 total carries. But I say that because Raheem Mostert, I think, still is probably like viewed as the lead guy because McDaniel trusts him and knows him, and he's this established wily vet. He fumbled twice today, and I think
Mhm.
and really like was just not taking care of the football. That's the reason why you'd play him over a young rookie. Again, wait till the numbers come out. We'll see what they actually come out at. But I think maybe one more week where the books are a little bit cautious and think maybe Mostert eats into a lot of the snaps, and Achan's only going to get 11 touches today. Like we might get the like 20 touch Achan game with some player props that fall kind of as a hedge of him getting that same 12 touch workload. I'm keeping an eye on that, but yeah, otherwise no play for me here. All right. We talked about the AFC North coming into the show. We got the Baltimore Ravens at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe the worst offense in the NFL, through the first month of the season. What do
Maybe.
you got here?
I went Ravens -4.
Let's see here. So did I. Right on 4. All right.
I'm seeing 3.5. Yeah,
Me
I'm seeing
too.
3.5 almost everywhere.
So you and I use this exact same dumb narrative logic going into this week. I'm glad it's you and I, not anybody else. But we're like, Mike Tomlin against the banged up Houston Texans team. This is why he always goes 9-8 or better. Yada yada yada. In my mind, I'm thinking like, all right, you just got absolutely embarrassed. I threw this out. I think this is well, yeah. We'll get to I think it might be Mitchell Trubisky, which I'll admit this might actually be an upgrade at this point over Kenny Pickett, but
Maybe, man.
I think I'm not even gonna lie. If this was Pickett, I probably would have put like 5.5 instead of maybe not a point and a half. Maybe I would have done 4.5 instead of 4. But yeah. But anyway, the narrative in my head right now is like, okay, Mike Tomlin, maybe the worst. I think it's probably the worst performance by a Pittsburgh Steelers team in our lifetimes. Like that's how bad I think that today was. I mean, look, have they had bad losses? Sure. Have they been blown out by division rivals or stuff like that? Sure. You go on the road to a Houston Texans team that is missing everyone and get demolished on both sides of the football. And therefore, I think everyone and their mother is going to bet on the Ravens. And then the Steelers are going to come out and have just an all-time effort game. yada yada yada. So that is in the back of my mind. And yeah, I do think you could probably make an argument we're getting a QB upgrade. Anyway, you have any thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I like betting on the Ravens kind of on the road here is a little bit tricky. All the Steelers Ravens games are close. Like last year, both games were decided by 2 and 3 points, but also both games were played without Lamar Jackson, who I think is playing pretty well this year. All things considered, the throw he had to Mark Andrews in the back of the end zone. I mean, that was very very nice. I also don't know if the Steelers offense is better than the Browns offense with DTR, which is saying something. And I also want to point out when you have Antonio Brown roasting your offensive coordinator on Twitter, that is not a good look. So Matt Canada catching all that smoke from Antonio Brown, it only added fuel to my fire that I want to be betting the Ravens here. Look, it was hilarious. The past 2 weeks or the 2 weeks before this week, I had that graphic where like I'm looking at the net success rates of teams that win games and lose games. And the Steelers for in week 3 and in week 2 had a net success rate of below like negative 10%, which means they were successful on less than 10 on they were successful 10% less of the time than than the Raiders and Browns. And it finally caught up with them. This is a terrible offense. This defense, Watt and Highsmith are great, but they still don't have Cam Hayward. The Ravens are doing all of this still banged up as hell, and they could be getting guys back. You never know. So yeah, I'm going to be betting the Ravens here, and this is a Ravens team that I think is pretty determined, and a Steelers team that I think is really really bad.
Yeah, very, very bad. I mean, this is big for Baltimore too. You get what would it be 3 wins against the AFC North in the last 4 weeks, or even just 3 straight? Did they just play Cincy? So yeah, I mean, you pretty much I think like take a huge lead in the division. Everything you just said. I mean, Mike McDonald versus Matt Canada is one of the biggest coaching mismatches in the entire NFL at this point. Yes, Baltimore is banged up, but I would imagine we might get Ronnie Stanley or Tyler Linderbaum or both back in this game. You go Marlon Humphrey. Someone's saying has been in the facility, could be back. I know he was dealing with the foot surgery. It was supposed to be around a month coming into the season. We did have Marcus Williams finally play again today, so they're getting some players back in the fold. Rashad Bateman was kind of a non-factor to begin with anyway. Odell maybe gets back in the mix here. So I am against all of my intuition gonna join this one with you. Yeah, it's just I don't know. The back of my mind is just like it's gonna be a Mike Tomlin classic. But
Yeah, I
in terms
know.
of everything else, I mean, Baltimore's performance against Cleveland's defense today too was by far the best performance we've seen
Yeah.
any team against that defense so far this year. Yes, obviously a small sample size, and yes, they had to overcome a rookie making his debut in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But I mean, yeah, on paper, these teams are not particularly close. But yeah, and Mitchell Trubisky, while he might be an upgrade, I mean, Mike McDonald's still going to put that man in the blender, just like he did DTR today. So, all right, next one up, interesting one. I'm curious where you have this one at. We got the Birds going to LA to play the Rams.
Yep. And I went Eagles -4.5.
Same thing for me already. So,
I'm seeing 5.5,
me too.
5. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
seeing 5.5, trending 5. I think
Okay. So like
FanDuel's.
-115 on the for the Rams.
Yeah,
Yeah. We'll throw it at 5.5. Doesn't really matter between those two.
yeah,
Yeah. So Rams great first half. Obviously, let the Colts back into that game and went to overtime and had the Puka Nakua touchdown. Birds continue. They're 4-0. I can't keep saying this. They're 4-0, and it's like an unimpressive 4-0. I mean, the Commanders look good in this game, move the ball well. For me, my takeaway is just this secondary in Philadelphia is a problem. I think it's going to be a weekly problem. You have Josh Joby now on the outside with Bradbury in the slot, and Joby was getting picked on this entire game. I kind of like the over 47 here more than the spread for either side. What are your thoughts?
yeah. I was gonna propose that we should get Cooper Cup back, right? Which will be he potentially yes or no?
Yeah, I'm not sure. No, I don't know. I have no clue.
Okay. Yeah. Even without that, I think, Puka is just such a good receiver at this point. I think the other issue I think I have with that would be Stafford did kind of get banged up. I mean, I was like, switching between that game and other games, but I did seem to see a lot of like Rams beat writers or people who cover the Rams say like, "Oh, Stafford's hurt, like take him out." Couldn't really take him out because the Colts were coming back, but it did seem like he was kind of banged up, and look, man, I watched that Bengals defensive line tear up that Rams offensive line, and I know the Rams lost some guys in the middle of that Bengals game, but I just like this Eagles defensive line scares me too much to where I feel like the Rams offensive line could just get overpowered at that point. Um, yeah, so I will stay away from the over, even though I think I would really like it if Cooper Cup came back, and I understand all that points, but I think the trench matchups kind of worry me in this game against the Rams.
So real quick on that one. So I mean, I echo everything you said there. The reason why I have more faith in that unit probably is the Niners game, but the Niners, like even today against Arizona, weren't all that impressive. I thought Paris Johnson did a really good job against Bosa. Hargrave had a sack, but I think it was the only sack of the game. And we did see Josh Dobbs take off. I think he had like 8 or 9 scrambles, 12 total carries. So, but yeah, that Niners defensive line. I know they're 4-0 and they're dominant, but like the Giants game was obviously an absolute massacre. But I don't know. Should I have less like be leaning on the Rams in a positive just because they had that good outing? Is that more of a Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, like knowing your opponent type thing, or I don't know? Any thoughts there?
No, that's a good point. Like I mean, I don't know how much has changed from that game. Like again, outside of I think the injury potentially to Stafford and him being a little bit hobbled throughout the week. Um, I guess the other point with this would be like the Rams defense, I think, has been playing above their talent level. But in this game against AJ Brown, like we've seen AJ Brown kind of dominate bad second or like just like dominate his matchup. We saw that today, 170 yards, 6 catches, like 2 touchdowns. Like I kind of had that same worry against the Bengals, which is why when I took the Rams, I was like, okay, I feel a little bit good about this, but also I know that Jamar Chase can go off for like 150 against Akello Witherspoon, Jacoby Durant, and whoever else is playing. I get that same feeling with Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, which again that just gives me pause against betting against the Eagles in this game. Yeah, that would be like kind of the only thing I think that changed outside of the after the Niners game.
Gotcha. I'm doing the asterisk on the that's a Matthew Stafford health asterisk because I do
Mhm.
think, and this also was going to be a topic I was going to bring up. I don't think it's that interesting of a topic, but and Stafford probably is the king of this, where there were a bunch of quarterbacks that pushed so hard to play this week. Derek Carr, the main one that pissed me off. Like you're an active detriment to your team. No, but like you play, I get you want to be tough. You're making a lot of money. You want to be there for the team. Like I respect all of those things. I don't know. Maybe it's more the coach's fault and the organization's fault than the player. But like you couldn't do anything. I mean, Alvin Kamara had 14 targets. Like how is that better than the coach saying, you know what, we pay a backup quarterback for a reason. We're going to put him in instead because he can actually throw the ball 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. I'm blanking. There was another quarterback who was in the same scenario. I don't know. Stafford probably does that more than anyone. Where he's going to trot out there and then just
Yeah.
be under siege. So anyway, those are Stafford asterisks on that one. All right, moving on. Speaking of the New Orleans Saints and Derek Carr, we have the Saints going to the New England Patriots. Real privilege of a quarterback matchup here. Derek Carr against maybe Bailey Zappi, maybe McCorkle gets back in the fold. What do you got here?
I'm just gonna say whatever this thing is, even if I'm off market, I'm not betting this game. I'm not touching this game at all. I had this at Saints +1 though.
How happy are you that we didn't take the Saints for the fourth week in a row in Circa?
Oh yeah, no, I I'm so glad. Like I bet with betting on Derek Carr and Pete Carmichael is just I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it, and thankfully, because they got annihilated. Yeah, it is Zappy hour, as they say.
Yep.
Maybe it's Zappy hour in New England. I mean, McCorkle was horrendous today, like throwing late in the
Mhm.
shot clock across his bot or across the field, like they're like very easy interceptions. These weren't tip passes. These weren't flukes or bad plays. He was doing elementary level Zach Wilson level stuff that you just don't do, and then he has no arm strength to begin with. So he was horrendous. I mean, maybe we do get some Zappy hour. I doubt it, but he was about as bad as you could be. I'm sure his grade's going to be terrible because, like I said, it wasn't anyone's fault but his own. I'm seeing Patriots at -1 on DraftKings. What are you saying?
Yeah, I'm seeing Pats -1 kind of across the board.
Yeah.
1.5 in some places, but I don't even feel comfortable teasing the Saints at this point. So, look, okay, stay on the topic of the Saints. if you went up to someone and you said Alvin Kamara had a 13 for 33 game, you would kind of assume that's 13 rushes, 33 carries, or 13 rushes for 33 rushing yards, right? And that's a pretty bad game. It's even worse when you consider it was 13 catches for 33
Yes.
yards and 58 yards after catch. Like his average at the target was negative 1.4. And look, I'm gonna be honest. I'm an honest guy. I did not watch a single snap of this game because I did not want to watch Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield play football. And I looked at the stat line after the game, and I saw that stat line from Kamara. I'm sure all his fantasy owners are super happy, and every analyst that touted him over the offseason is jumping up and down in circles. But that is that is not what Sean Payton envisioned when he drafted Alvin Kamara. And I'm just like, Pete Carmichael, like you studied under Sean Payton for years, and this is what you're doing to him. 13 catches for 33 yards. Like I couldn't fathom watching that game and seeing all of that. And I'm glad I didn't turn on a second of that game, just because that is just an irresponsible way to use one of the league's best weapons.
Yeah, you'll love this stat from Greg Oman, who works at, I want to say, Fox Sports. Yeah, he covers the entire NFC South for Fox Sports at Greg Oman. Great Twitter account. That's Greg, Auman. Saints Alvin Kamara had 13 catches today for 33 yards, 2.5 yards per catch. It's the 200th game in NFL history where a player had 13 plus catches. The previous low in receiving yards was 71 yards. Kamara had less than half of that. Like, that might be an unbreakable NFL record. I mean, like, it
Oh
truly, we may
man.
have witnessed history today with Derek Carr, Pete Carmichael, and Alvin Kamara. Yeah, if you're in a full PPR league, you don't give a flying rat's ass about that. But if you wanted to watch good offensive football, that is not what you got from there. So, yeah, had to shout out that stat. I had that one queued up. I'm not betting this game in any conceivable way. And just like you, outside of Red Zone, which you probably won't make it on Red Zone, I probably won't watch it next week either. All righty. All right, next up, we got a fascinating game to me. I had no idea where to put this spread. I'm guessing I could be way, way off. Cincinnati Bengals go on the road to Arizona, the frisky, plucky Arizona Cardinals. What do you make it?
I went Bengals -4.
So I went 3.5. Here was my thinking here. Arizona was like, not, the score wasn't great. It was 35-16 final score. It was at certain times a bit out of hand. It was 21-3 today. San Francisco, they got back to 21-16 with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. But you look at the numbers. Arizona had 5.4 yards per play, which is like a slightly below average to average performance. But against the Niners, it's like an above average performance. And then they had 5 different drives of 10 plus plays. And okay, I think like half of those didn't even lead to a field goal. But for me, it was Drew Petzing and Josh Dobbs are able to sustain drives against these very good defenses. Michael Wilson, the rookie's coming along. Marquise Brown, healthy now, had 9 catches in this game. The tight ends are involved. Like, for me, if we do get a bounce back Bengals performance, they're obviously not as good as San Francisco. And I just think, I don't know, like, they're not going to have that many 10 plus play drives again, but their ability to not rely on the explosives and still be hanging in a lot of these games. I think, we talk about the drive quality metric and all those things. Like, this is not a fluky team. This is a well-coached football team that is at a talent, disadvantage in every Sunday. But coaching matters a ton, and they're proving that every week. So anyway, any bet thoughts from you?
No, I'm not going to bet this game, but I echo kind of all your thoughts. By the way, I'm seeing this 4.5. I think everywhere.
4.5. Okay.
Um, which I think that's a fair line. I don't really know which way that's going to trend. But I think the big issue with this game against the Niners is it was just a skill issue. Like the Cardinals are just not equipped to kind of handle Ayuk, Debo, McCaffrey, and Kittle all healthy. The Bengals are not going to have T Higgins right next week. That's kind of big. And I think Gannon's put on some good game plans at times. He's he's not even calling the plays. But it feels like the defenses under him this year, or I guess whoever the DC Nick Rallis, right? Like he's way more aggressive than Gannon is. Like we've seen, like Gannon in Philly, he'll never run like one of those amoeba fronts. The fronts where you just have the guys kind of just rotating all over the place. Like, the Bengals pass protection issues like were pretty bad today. There were times where Burrow was just getting clobbered on some of these blitzes. So I think they could honestly struggle against some of this Arizona pressure schemes. And yeah, I mean, Big Lou is not his defenses aren't up to standard. The Bengals are 24th in EPA per play allowed, 26th in success rate allowed. So I wouldn't even be surprised if the Cardinals kind of move the ball at will against this Bengals defense.
Yeah, the amoeba video or Dak Prescott from last week just is standing there pre-snap and then just calls a
That's
timeout because
awesome.
he has
That's
absolutely no idea
awesome.
what he's looking at. Yeah, I mean, credit to those guys like Dennis Gardeck, Cam Thomas, like Victor DiMcKeje. Like they've had some good play, and they've had like they're missing Buda Baker. He's been out. But yeah, the T Higgins thing almost makes me want to bet Cincy because I think they're just going to bracket Jamar Chase on every single snap. They don't have tight ends. Tyler Boyd is a guy like I don't think he's anything special. Joe Mixon, like your guy Kaiser White looking good. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
want to bet this. I'm not going to, but I also like the narrative. This is like a get right spot for Cincy. I'm not buying that in any way, shape, or form. I'm definitely not betting the Bengals, and I wish I had the stones to bet the Cardinals, but I don't. All righty, we got your New York Jets coming off an impressive outing at the Nathaniel Hackett revenge game at the Denver Broncos. What do you got?
I went Jets plus 1.5.
Okay, yeah, we're on the same page this week, which is different than so far this year. IML, same line. Broncos minus 1.5. As I was watching the game, I did change this though. I had it at Broncos plus 1.5, or sorry, excuse me. I had it at Denver minus 2.5, shaded towards the
Mhm.
field goal, moved it down a little bit. Let's go there. What did you see from Zach Wilson? Did he impress you? Is it sustainable? Are they going to let him play a little more freely, throw a bunch of back shoulder balls? What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Zach Wilson was pretty good today. Didn't put the ball in harm's way, like I think people are kind of accustomed to. I think the game plan today of really just getting the ball to Garrett Wilson was something that I was finally hoping for. Like I know 8 catches for 56 yards isn't something that is a very efficient day, but again helps you staying ahead of the sticks, and it's better than being in third and long on every single damn play. I think yeah, again, the main thing with Wilson is like taking care of the ball, no turnovers. Right now, no turnover worthy plays, and of course that fumble was really bad. And I mean, the Jets defense they held Mahomes holding Mahomes to 23 points is very impressive. And they kind of the Chiefs got bailed out on that last drive with phantom holding call and then Mahomes' legs, but Russell Wilson, like I mean, he's using his legs a little bit more here and there, but it's not Mahomes level. It's really not. And um, I think the Broncos are not fully built on explosive plays, but like I don't know if their EPA like again they had a great performance today, but it's against the Bears defense, right? And the Jets are a completely different tier, like they're in another like league compared to the Bears. So,
Oh yeah.
so yeah, like I had it, like I said, I had this at 1.5. I'm seeing 2.5, trending 3, but I
Yep.
don't know if that's like updated after the game. Like I'm just looking at BetStamp right now. But either way, I am taking the Jets like straight up on the money line. I'll take the points also, but I am buying the Hackett revenge game. I think this is going to be a fired up Jets locker room after their performance today, and I think they come out guns a blazing and go into Denver to win this game.
I think they saw enough as well where like they're going to play hard on both sides of the ball that because they actually think Zach Wilson can keep them in a football game. Because I really do think he did enough tonight. Obviously they lose. Obviously had the fumble, which was the snap was fine. He kind of just took his eyes away and was looking downfield. But like the defense looked listless in the beginning. It was 17-0. They kind of, I mean, DJ Reed probably wasn't going to catch Isaiah Pacheco, but just pulled up at the 5-yard line. Like there was little hints of that. And then I think once Zach Wilson sustained a couple drives, you saw like Quincy Williams playing with his hair on fire, like a lot of great plays. Jermaine Johnson had a good game. Debatably got held. I thought it was, I don't know, him and Donovan Smith. I thought it was a bit overblown, the whole refereeing thing there. But what are your thoughts on, and this sounds crazy as I say it, the total here of 41. The Denver defense is horrendous. Like like Justin Fields completed 16 straight passes to start this game. He said he tied a Bears record today. DJ Moore being shadowed by Sertan was irrelevant. Coming into this game, Damari Mathis was our lowest graded cornerback in the entire NFL. And Sang Bassi was our 5th lowest graded cornerback in the NFL. They have no pass rush whatsoever. I think that this version of Zach Wilson, and maybe I'm lost in the sauce, like this version of Zach Wilson should be able to score 25 points against this Broncos defense. And then, as good as the Jets defense is, which is very, very good, I mean, look, we have 4 weeks now. Like you said, there is some reliance on explosives. We have 4 weeks now, though, of like an efficient, solid offense with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. So I don't know if I'm going to bet it, but what are your thoughts there on that number?
Yeah, I mean, that is a low total. Like it's tough, man, because we've never seen. I don't think we've seen Zach Wilson put together two kind of competent performances back to back. But we never saw that out of Justin Fields, and we saw maybe him have his best performance ever today. So miracles against Vance Joseph are definitely possible. You do screw it, bro. Let's ride. Let's ride on this
Do it.
over.
Let's see where,
I
where's
love
that?
it. I love
If
it.
Zach Wilson has a classic Zach Wilson game, we're going to be like, yeah,
Yeah,
that was Sunday night, falling for Sunday night. We've all been there.
betting on the
Yeah, let's do it.
Wilsons, that can't go wrong. Just can't go
Plus, he
wrong.
played in Utah. He's a big altitude guy. Like he's back in his
Oh yeah.
element. Like that was the issue actually. I think above sea level, Zach Wilson would have been an elite quarterback. It's a sea level thing in MetLife. All right, we're riding a Jets Broncos over. Are we insane? All righty. Next game here, we got the game that'll probably have a total of 15 points higher. Kansas City Chiefs going to the Minnesota Vikings. What'd you make it?
I went Chiefs -5.
I went 5.5. So yeah, and the total is 52.5, which I kind of like, frankly. I mean, we know Mahomes against the blitz. You shouldn't even blitz him. And I think they're probably still going to. Minnesota's bad today. No way around it. I mean, especially when you're trying to get your first win of the season. Kirk had a, poor outing. He's been good so far this year. Was not good today. I don't know. I think the only takeaway is probably just the over 52.5.
Yeah, like I mean, yeah, the Jets defense is pretty good. So it's tough to really like kind of downgrade the Chiefs too much, but like there were I feel like you can agree there were times in that game where it's like what is Mahomes doing here? Even the pick that got called back to holding was like a weird, like you just threw it up, you threw a corner route, just threw it up, and yeah, you can't blitz Mahomes. I don't really know if they have the personnel to beat the blitz as well as they've had in the past. Like, last year you had McCole Hardman, who's kind of that burner. Rasheed Rice is kind of filling that role, and I'm not sure if he can really do that. I think I'd have to really look like just once all the data is finalized, like look at Mahomes' EPA versus the blitz, and before really taking it over because I don't really think this is going to move all that much. It's already a pretty high total. I also don't love taking the Chiefs here just because again I feel like just watching their offense against non-Bears opponents, it hasn't been that pretty. And so, yeah, I think I'd have to do a little bit more of a deeper dive. I will say the Chiefs defense is, kind of impressing more than I thought. Right now, they're fifth in EPA per play allowed, also top 10 in success rate allowed. So, like, this is a pretty good Chiefs defense. Uh, Dalton Reisner would be a huge upgrade over whoever the hell is starting on the Vikings off interior offensive line against Chris Jones. So yeah, I think I'll keep an asterisk on the over, but I need to like really look at some of the blitzing numbers for the Chiefs this year.
Yeah, obviously the Chris Jones versus Austin Schlottman, and then if Ed Ingram keeps playing, which I don't know why you signed Dalton Risner if not to replace Ed Ingram at right guard. Um, yeah, you probably talked me out of it, so I guess we'll table it. We'll table it. Maybe it'll be something we revisit midweek, like you said. I think we could see move to 53.5, but it's not going to move to a number that if we like it, we're going to, not feel comfortable betting anymore. So anyway, we'll table that one. All right. This is the one I alluded to. Well, first of all, real quick, I saw 5.5, I think. Yeah, I saw 5.5 pretty much
Yeah,
across the board. Is that what you're
yeah.
saying? Yeah. Okay. No surprise to anyone who knows George. He wanted me to say the 49ers are going to kick the Giants' ass. The Cowboys are frauds. So that's the game we're at now. Is Dallas at San Francisco next week? What'd you make it?
I went Niners -3.5.
So I went on the number, and George just said if it's at 3.5 or less, I'm betting it. So I am seeing 3.5. Are you seeing
Yeah,
that as well?
I'm seeing 3.5. FanDuel and DraftKings are shaded towards the Cowboys. I
Yep.
would love to take this at -3. So I think I don't really necessarily see it going anywhere, especially since the Cowboys put a beat down on the Patriots. Would you agree there?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I'd be surprised if this moves to, if it's like, I'm with you. If it gets to a field goal, I am taking the 49ers as
Hmm.
well. This is a bet for George regardless. um, so, he's a man of principle. I think he was hoping it was going to be a field goal, but he said, all right, well, I'll still take it. Yeah, I mean, I gotta watch the actual game tape back. I'm sure it was a low A dot before. I think it was like 8 yards, which is fine. But I mean, 20 of 21 for 283 and a rushing touchdown as well. McCaffrey with 4 touchdowns. The defense is going to definitely give Dak Prescott problems, and you can run on this Cowboys team. I mean, you really, really can. So McCaffrey probably going to extend that streak to 14 games with a score. I do. I think you see, two powers of the NFC. And as much as I love Dallas coming in, we just have not really seen it. I think San Fran wins that one, but yeah, no bet for me. Total of 45 and a half. I think that could go either way as well. All righty.
Let
Last game, we
Okay,
got Monday
hold on,
night.
Brad, real quick.
Oh,
We
yep,
got to
yep.
just talk about how good Kyle Shanahan is.
Yeah,
I'll give
let's
some
do it.
credit to Purdy because his grading is really, really good from this game. But Brock
Mhm.
Purdy averaged a 1.06 EPA per play, which means every time that so he dropped back 25 times, he added basically a point to the Niners every single time he dropped back. He also had a completion percentage over expected of 27.2%. So he completed he had a really good like his raw completion percentage was he went
20 and
20 and
21 again.
21. Yeah,
Yeah,
so they only missed one pass. So
yeah.
like again, the Cardinals are not a team that can keep up with the Niners star power wise. The Cowboys could, and they have a little. The Cowboys also might hold a trench advantage on defense, but I also think Kyle Shanahan is the perfect play caller to take advantage of kind of like Michael Parsons' aggressiveness, and similar to how Drew Petzing, remember he like ran the ball at Parsons because Parsons kind of overran it. I think Kyle Shanahan is going to watch that and just exploit every matchup that Dallas has on defense. So yeah, again, if this hits a field goal, this might be like a 2.5 unit play for me for next week.
So real quick on Micah as well. I know he's played through ankle injuries like a half dozen times in his career, but he did roll his ankle pretty good today. I think he came back even in that game, but something to monitor. He might not be at 100%. Like you said, I mean, besides Trent Williams, he would annihilate any offensive lineman for the Niners, but might not be fully healthy. But yeah, there was a play where I think Debo Samuel ran like orbit motion to the opposite side. There was a bunch on the left side with Ronnie Bell, and it was only like a 7 yard game, but it was just like you watch the play and you're like, the coach just gained 7 yards. Like, not to take away from Brock, not to take away from Ronnie Bell. Like, it was just like it literally just schemed a 7 yard game. Like, it was just like, I don't know. He's ridiculous. We all know it, but he reminds us every single week. So yeah. Anyway. Last but not least, a clunker of a Monday night game. We got Jordan. You love to see it at the Las Vegas Raiders. What did you make it?
I went Packers -1.5.
I just went pick them because I don't know anything about either of these teams. I assume Jimmy G plays. Obviously, missed the concussion. Aiden O'Connell. I mean, it's your Chargers. Jimmy G probably wins this game today. He had what, 7 sacks. Six of
Mhm.
them were Khalil Mack. He fumbled 3 times, lost 2 of them, and then obviously had the interception near the end zone to close it out. I mean, yeah, obviously it would have been a different game with Jimmy G, but in a dumb hypothetical transitive property, I don't think Jimmy G would have taken 7 sacks and had 3 turnovers. But anyway, I think he will play. Vontae Adams, though, pretty banged up. Said it was his shoulder. I think he said was
Yeah.
like killing him. He's been dealing with injuries kind of the whole year. It's not a revenge game. He basically asked his way out, but it is obviously. I'm sure he'll go if he can because it's Green Bay. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna bet the Packers here. You're getting a team that's getting 11 days of rest. And Jair didn't even play in the Detroit game. I'm hoping he'll finally be back. It's a big game, especially because he's gonna need to guard Devontae for most of the game. Yeah, the Raiders defense was a little bit surprising. The Chargers kind of walked all over them in the first half, and they really put the clamps on in the second half. But that was mostly Max Crosby just blowing up plays. But he's not going to be able to really do that against Zach Tom. I think who's really a pretty solid right tackle. I think the Packers again. towards the end of that Lions game, we're moving the ball a little bit. Jordan Love wasn't that impressive, but I think he's good enough to kind of win and grind out this game. The Raiders defense isn't that good outside of Max Crosby. And again, I think this is a matchup like LaFleur just has the coaching advantage and from play calling and game management, which Josh McDaniels, he completely just didn't challenge a touchdown that Devontae caught on the goal line, and he
Yes.
hurried up. The Raiders hurried up and didn't get the sneak. I'm like, what do you like? I get you want to save your time, like if you don't want to waste a challenge and lose a timeout, but like it's a 2-score game. Like you should use that challenge. Instead, they went hurry up and didn't get the sneak. It was just I just couldn't understand the coaching decision there. So I think they have the Packers have the advantage there, and also in the trenches as well. Like Rashawn Gary has been coming into his own, and we just saw Khalil Mack kind of tear apart this Raiders offensive line, which looked really good the first through 2 weeks of the season, and now it's kind of falling back down to earth like we all thought they would. So yeah, I'm going to be taking the Packers here, and I think they have a lot of advantages.
What was your thought? Your favorite draft pick you told me of the last decade for the Chargers, Jerry Tillery
Oh
revenge game
yeah.
today. Was that the dumbest late hit of the season we think so far?
It was the dumbest, but also like probably the most premeditated hit I've seen so far this season. Like he was, you could like I wish I can see like the close up view, just see his eyes, like how how big they got when he saw Herbert rushing towards the sidelines. I actually think it's a bad thing if he gets suspended for the Packers. Like if you're the Packers, you want him to play in this game. You just run straight
Yep.
at him, and you'll get Elton. Or I'm hoping Elton Jenkins will come back, but you just run right in that interior and it's easy 5-6 yards every single time.
Yeah, yeah. No, it was just I've never seen him. So Max Crosby, like as the hit's happening, is like, "What are you doing?" And I don't think I've ever seen that where the teammate was like, "That was the dumbest hit I've ever seen" as well.
Yeah.
So probably an asterisk because a lot of injuries in Green Bay. You mentioned the offensive line. Both Aaron Jones and Christian Watson kind of didn't play, but that was a Thursday game. 43 and a half here. I mean, I mentioned Joe Barry an hour ago. Him, Matt Canada, like you have a competition of like craziest retention of the offseason. They're definitely both on the list. That's probably the top two, where like you're actively hurting your team's playoff chances by not just bringing in somebody else.
Mhm.
I'm sure you could find some other names in the list, but 43 and a half. Look, Jimmy G with this offense, Bill's game was not pretty, but they've moved the ball pretty effectively. They are going to be able to run the ball, I would imagine, mitigate some of that pressure. Like you said, the Raiders' offensive line has certainly fallen back down to earth. Rashawn Gary's still on a pitch count, though, played about 25 snaps on Thursday. And then on the flip side, like we just talked about, the Packers are, I mean, Matt LaFleur alone is going to scheme up 20 points here. Kind of like the over 43 and a half in this one.
Yeah, I think the over. I was also looking at that. I guess it just depends on whether. I mean, Jimmy G should come back, right? Is what you're saying?
I would imagine so. So he was in stage 4 of the concussion protocol as recently as Friday, which is like you're doing non-contact practice, which I also think kind of bit Aiden O'Connell. I would imagine he may have been taking first team reps. I don't know for certain, but maybe it wasn't even team stuff. It was just individual. But anyway, I should probably learn that because I don't know. O'Connell obviously struggled, but anyway, I think it'll be Jimmy G. And
Yeah.
43 and a half for these two offenses, Green Bay gets an extra, what? I mean, sheesh, like 11 days before this game coming off a Thursday game. Christian Watson against, I mean, any of the outside corners, Marcus Peters or Jacorian Bennett or whoever will be, do whatever he wants. The run game here, I like. I'll put it down. Well, not even an asterisk. I don't even care if it's Aiden O'Connell. He's going to bounce back. Everybody knows it. All right.
Oh,
Preseason
we also
champion.
before we wrap up, we gotta give a shout out to our guy Devontae Adams for catching our over five and
Yes.
a half catches lock of the week, which he got in like a quarter and a half.
Yes.
Coming back from I thought a shoulder injury that would have knocked him out, but just absolute beast.
Yeah.
So shout out Devontae.
For sure. You got to shout out Tay Adams. Yeah, we were panicking and it wasn't even close. But did he hit like 9, I think, by the end of the game?
Yeah, well, that's also because the Chargers just were playing off coverage on every snap, but that's the Chargers. So
Yeah, that's the Chargers
yeah.
way. All right. Yeah, the spread here, I'm seeing Raiders +1 at DraftKings. You seeing that most places
hmm
or?
hmm
Yeah. All righty. Cool. All right. Well, that'll do it for us. The two-man show, the Guess the Lines. We'll get everything updated with the Discord and the season-long contest. We did have a good week. We'll obviously publish the article, but we had a good week. I think a winning week for the midweek locks of the week. and we're waiting on the over 45/over 47. I think we double dipped on the Seattle Giants over tomorrow night. So, yeah, we'll catch you all Wednesday. Thanks for joining us. Peace.